Hey everyone, welcome back to day two. I want to say hi to the chats. Hi Cody, Wade, Jack, Raphael, Jack. I think I said Jack once. And hi Paul, how are you doing?
Hi guys. Hey Alejandro.
You all set? You have your coffee ready? Tea? Are you a
Yeah,
coffee man?
I am a coffee and tea man. Coffee in the
Okay,
day and tea in the evenings.
that's how I do it. I always end up drinking coffee way too late and just staying up way too
Right.
late. And rinse, repeat. We have an exciting day today. Can you go over a little bit what we did yesterday? Well, before we go into that, let's go into the schedule actually. So today, what we had for yesterday and today, we had the intro to Photoshop compositing with Claudia from Print My Soul, and we had Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Paul Chaney. In addition, we had Vector Art with Monica and Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Julia. And today, you're seeing now is UI UX case study with Paul Syng. And stay tuned because right after that, we have the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge with Jesse. And right after that, we have Design in the Dark with Andrew and Logan. That sounds interesting, designing in the dark.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you missed anything from today or yesterday, no fret. You can always find us over on YouTube and see those recaps. Speaking of which, if anyone here is on YouTube and watching us from there, hop on over to Behance because there you could chat with us, hang out. We have a lot of cool people like Lona and Hi Lona and Pogo, Amna. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry. And yeah, so don't be shy. Say hi. Ask us questions. Paul's here. He's a wonderful professional and he has a load of experience. So ask away. So can you maybe, Paul, go over what we did a little bit yesterday?
Absolutely. Let's dive right into it. In fact, if you look at my screen, this is kind of where we started out, and I'm going to just do a quick recap. Is kind of we outlined, what are the goals, objectives, and then a little bit of our process that we'll look at the competitive landscape. We'll do some wireframes. And yesterday we basically did some wireframing. We got started in wireframing, and then we wanted to actually do a little bit more yesterday, but we couldn't. But the best part is that I have offline developed some of that content. So today we can have more to play with. And so today we're going to do a little bit of more polish and finesse. We'll go over setting our design system, fonts, stuff. So I've left some of those pieces open for us to do live with our audience and get their feedback and input on it. And in fact, we also, if I have my, this is basically the BOM current state of the website. We kind of looked at that. In fact, I also have my browser here open. So this is the website that we are redesigning. If for audience members who did not get a chance to see it yesterday, is BOM is a Black-owned marketplace, which basically brings Black business owners with customers, people, and it creates this platform. It facilitates that conversation, that dialogue. And it's run and started by Michelle Dowson, who is right here actually. And so yeah, I spoke to her yesterday before the stream, and I asked her what's your wish list. What if you had whatever resources available, what would you desire? So we got some scoop on that, and then we started exploring some of those ideas. And so this is currently where we're at now. Is if I was to just show you a very quick overview.
And before that, real quick, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Asking, Rafael Caba is asking, how far do you go into the 8-pixel grid? Because I think we mentioned it yesterday about the 8-pixel grid, and I was just curious about that.
So for the sake of this live stream, what we're doing is we are staying cognizant of it by what we're going to do is we're like, okay, how about we just for now, for the sake of the live stream, just make all our typography in the multiples of 8. So our baseline font that we're actually using is 16 size and not 8, because on the web, 16 is the most ideal, even as per I think Google standards. And then we're just going from there and up. So the next level up is 16, it's 24, then 32, and then we're just scaling up from there. Ideally, if you have a baseline grid set up, you could do that manually in XD. It's unlike Adobe InDesign, in which you can set it within the preferences panel. But for the sake of the live stream, we're just going to keep it super simple. It most likely that would come more useful when we get into more production and finessing the design. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be doing any finessing of the design on this live stream because that might take forever. So we'll stay true to it in certain ways and forms, and we'll talk through those elements and pieces. But we're not going to be able to be like, let's say, true to that on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we have such limited time. We're going to be kind of sprinting towards that, try to get those designs out. But hopefully that answered your question, Raphael. And keep the questions coming, guys. Perfect. So, sorry, go back to the design.
Fantastic. So where we left off yesterday, I kind of started exploring a few things, and I'll touch on them in a second. So one of the things that I did is I developed some of those founder pages. Now I have two versions. I've created like a tile, so to just show how one and the other would look, and if there was like a templated page. So basically what's currently happening is, for people who are joining us today for the first time, is that currently on the website, this is what the founder pages look like. Mm-hmm. And what our attempt was to kind of look at these and say, okay, well, how can we kind of celebrate these founders? How can we add a little bit more pizzazz, if I was to say, to these pages? So what we did is we went and explored a bit of a layout, and this is taking more cues from an editorial style layout. And I also wanted to bring, so if you look at the current logo, so the logo basically has a lot of really fantastic elements. It's got like these circles, pink circles, triangles. It's got these bars. It's got a lot of bright colors, and it's literally the idea started off as a pop-up. So that logo speaks that language really well, but the current state of the website was not really conveying that. Like, all those bright colors were kind of redacted to just this logo on the screen. So we weren't really seeing that idea from a visual identity standpoint come to life. So what I've done is I've just kind of taken some of that content and said, well, what if we were to, bring some of those elements that are in that logo and bring them to life, and just give each Black business owner their own dedicated editorial page. So if, a customer or a user is more interested in learning about the backstory of the product that they're buying, they can have a look at this and kind of, make a much more meaningful and emotional connection. And also we wanted to tell their story.
Yeah.
So the template that I have here, I haven't finesse this yet. I just wanted to have something a little bit more based from where we left off yesterday. Is like have a simple tiling system where the hero image is basically just big, bold name, and maybe it's like a small description below, and then just using some of those circular elements and those colors to kind of give that pop-up vibe and feel. And then with that template, I wanted to create like a system where every time, let's say, Michelle, who's the founder, has to go into our Shopify template and just upload the logos, and everything just falls into place. And it's there's no, let's say, she doesn't have to do any heavy lifting on her end because she's also not a developer and engineer, right? And then maybe for each business owner, we have like a really nice, fantastic image, in whatever pose. I found these on the internet, so I've just kind of
you just pulled it from the internet instead of the actual site.
Yeah. So I just Googled their name and, found some imagery, started using that. And I just put in some placeholder copy. It's a little bit of the copy just repeated multiple times, but just gave a lot of breathing space, treated more like an editorial. And then you can see, okay, this founder has actually traveled 68 countries. So you kind of make a very different connection with the person. And then integrated her products with her editorial here. And also, if you look at, so let me actually go back here for a second. Sorry, I'm jumping a little bit, but I want to show you guys one thing. So if you currently go now, this is her page right now. Now, what happens is that you can read about her, but then when you click on Shop the Collection, you're taken to a completely different page. which is a dedicated page. And then there are all these drop shadows and all this flavor that we're picking up from the Harlem's website. So how can we put our own visual signature on the products that are displayed on our sites? That was one of the things that we're going to address. And then also how to integrate some of the products that she has, Terry Johnson, who is the founder of Harlem Candle Company. How can we have some of those products also linked here? So that's kind of what you're seeing on this layout, is that not only are we telling the story here of who Terry Johnson is, what she's like, what inspired her to start this, but then also we're showing simple things like products from Harlem Candle Co., Terry's favorite scents, for example, and then you can shop the collection. So you still have that button, you can still access it, but now we've kind of given our own flavor to how we present the products.
It's interesting too, how you set it up where it's the call to action is still within the same page as the editorial about for the founder and the creator of this particular item.
Yeah. So I wanted to, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Well, I just wanted to make a mention. You mentioned earlier how when you're designing this out, you're also trying to make it easy for the person to implement this. So I think that's a really important thing. Sometimes we kind of forget as we're designing something that how would it even be implemented? Would they have to hire a team of developers, one developer maybe, or maybe even like a already built thing like already built site like Square or Wix or something like that.
Yeah, Shopify, Squarespace, Wix. Exactly. Yeah. Because again, we have to remember that, as a designer, I think this is something that we touched on yesterday, is as designers, our role is kind of facilitation, is helping stakeholders realize their dreams in a visual way, in motion graphics, or in a physical way, shape, form, whatever, right? So we want to empower them and not make them dependent on us. So that is definitely one of the things that is always in the back of my mind when I'm creating something, is how can I make something which they can run with themselves, and they only need to come back to me if they need to do like something special or they're stuck with something very particular. Otherwise, I prefer that, I prefer that my designs empower them and they can just do the rest, run it on their own.
That's great advice for everyone listening in the chat.
Yeah. And again, I've used like Adobe Sensei in terms of image cropping. Mm-hmm. If you have an iPad or if you have the regular Photoshop version on your Mac or your Windows machine, you just use select subject, and that's how clean those images have been cropped out. I didn't do anything special. I just went into Photoshop, dropped those, and I'm going to show you guys an example on the show as well, is that it's so sharp. Like these are pretty tack sharp, I would say. I mean, sure, there is a little bit of fuzziness here and there, but it is pretty good. Like I didn't spend too much time in cropping out these images at all. And they're pretty good. So I think we can also show the audience how, and even again, the idea is that she can use simple tools to just crop those images and drop them into the layout and have a template ready. But at the same time now, this looks like it's a store, like the Bomb store, even though the products are Harlem, when we're staying true to the products, but we're putting a little bit of our own flavor on it. And what I did was I've also created some other tile options, like right here, of how we can kind of play around with these. We could even do like fun animations with this. So for example, with the component states, we'll try those out in a little bit later in the episode, in the show, sorry. That when we have, let's say, a hover state, that this triangle in the back turns into a square or a circle. So those could be fun animations that we can bring into the product cards.
And those are great attention grabbers too, to bring them into those kind of products and even facilitate maybe a purchase or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So just wanted to make it a little bit more fun, but also just stay honest to the original owner of those products, but also make it a little bit of that you're in the Bomb ecosystem right now. That's where you're looking at these products. And also here, like I've taken the same example. I've tried out a slightly different crop style here, where, again, in this, we could have different rollover states. So for example, when the mouse hover, like rolls over on this, or we can have like a hover state where, the product shrinks down, a little bit of a description appears, and this triangle maybe turns into a circle or a square. That could look really cool.
That would look great on the desktop. I'm curious how you would transfer that kind of idea to a mobile platform.
Absolutely, yes. So that is something we are definitely going to look at. I think that's one thing I want to explore on today's show is kind of look at what we have today and maybe try one mobile version and show maybe one or two interactions, because I want to be realistic with the time that we also have available.
Of course.
Because yesterday I sort of underestimated or overestimated, I would say. So the whole product page is kind of, you have the products integrated into the story of the founder. And then you end with like a nice big image. And then I also just had like a big, like again, negative space to just shop again, share. And then you can have more Black founders like tiled at the bottom.
Yeah, so that looks great already. It looks fantastic. I'm excited to see where this goes. The colors pop. The chat is like colors. And they see Cody's mentioning how much he likes it. And and a hi from someone in Germany. Hello, Julia. I guess that's one thing cool. I should mention or ask is where everyone is chatting from, because we get people from all over the world. So I would love to know.
Right. That's so cool that I'm sitting in Toronto. You're on the West Coast.
I'm in the Bay Area, yeah.
Right. And there are people, and we're just like using our home setup, and people from across the world are watching. That's so cool. So powerful.
I love the interconnectivity. Yeah, it's wonderful. People from Germany. I think yesterday we had one from Ghana. So it's really neat. Someone's looking to get into UI design, and where should they start, and what program should they explore? Well, I mean, these Adobe Live episodes are great. We have them almost every week. You can always go to the Adobe Live YouTube channel, check out some of the other ones, and do the creative challenges, which today we will be going over the daily creative challenge for today, which what I believe is, I don't know what it is a app that lets users explore maps with scroll groups that incorporate audio feedback when they interact with landmarks. So take a look at that. We're going to be going over those today, and you can always post those over to the Discord channel. And you can always look at more of a challenge too at the top right corner over in Behance. So we're excited to take a look at those, guys. So work away, and we're going to give you guys our feedback.
Cool. So, so I basically just kind of incorporated this same system. I just had sort of touched on the footer element a little bit, and we're going to build that out today together. I had a cool idea for that as well of what we can do. But again, just integrating the stories of the Black business owners with the products that they have. And then also kind of bringing the signature bomb flavor and pop-up ecosystem throughout. Now, like for example, one of my thoughts was that now these just look like very simple. Like these are very simple. Like somebody, if they let's say roll over on this, I would love to have like colorful circles and triangles come out as an animation and redact. And maybe this share currently is just text, and it turns into a black tile, a black button. Sorry. So there's a lot of fun exploration that we can do, because there's just so much based on that visual identity system that allows for all those experimentations. I don't know how much we're going to get covered today, but I'm just saying that there's so much possibility here.
We're going to get as much as we can done.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. And so just likewise, I've just kind of quickly incorporated like a very similar template for, Timothy George, where like the logos appear right after the fold. So right away, it's sort of like a branded page almost. And then you have a little bit of a write-up and some nice imagery about them, their story, their product, one interesting fact about them, like in both cases, that she's traveled the world or whatever that other fact is. And then some of their products. And then just like end with like a nice, fantastic full bleed image. And then again, just have that same tiling system below. So I would actually just grab all this and But yeah, that's kind of the thought process. Is just now we have a very simple tiled template for the founders of Black-owned business owners. And we can, of course, have scrolling enabled here on these products. And at the bottom, of course, we would, love to have scroll groups set up here. And I've actually used the stacks also here. And these are actually the business owner cards are actually components. So I've created a repeat grid using the component system, and then just gone ahead and made like some changes on the second card here.
Okay, and then you just use the repeat grid to continue that.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
What is the benefit of that? I suppose for people who don't know.
So one of the best parts about using components in the repeat grid is, firstly, unlike symbols, now in components, what you can do is you can make changes to its instances without it having a cascading effect across all of them. Now, of course, if you edit the master component and you make changes to that will reflect across the board on all the instances. But if you, let's say, modify a certain attribute of an instance, so let's say I modified the color, right? So Adobe will be like, oh, okay, so we understand that the designers decided to change the color, so we're not going to touch that attribute because the designers kind of made an intervention there, or, added an icon or made some modifications. So wherever you don't make interventions or make any changes in the instances, those will stay, again, connected to the master component. So if I, let's say, change the color in the background here to whatever blue, let's just say like I have green here. And now it knows that like I'm changing this color in the first, actually, wait a second. I had actually broken up all the components on this one, on this layout, but I think no. So I think I had broken up let's just see here. If I go to the master component for a second, which is, it's behind this. So what happens is that when you want to basically edit, you want to edit the master component and the master. So this is the master component. It has like a triangle, filled in triangle on it. So now what I've also done is taken that component and add it. So it's kind of set up in the library here. But now, for example, let me just do it here. So if I take this version and I edit this one to, let's say, one of the red colors. Okay. Actually, because the other one is, whoops.
I see you have those colors all set up and ready to go in your asset.
Yeah. So if I edit that now, I think, so now every instance of that component is changed to blue, except for the one where I changed the image of Timothy George and the text. So that's really cool. So all of these are just repeat components. Now, again, we just changed the color of this instance here on this artboard, and XD knows that the designer wanted to change the color, so it's not going to touch that part. Everywhere else, it's modified all those other attributes.
That is so much easier.
Yeah. So now, with master components, you can do so much more. So if I wanted to add certain elements and pieces to it, it would have a cascading effect. At the same time, if you didn't want to have it change across everything, that's also possible. Versus the symbols pattern, the symbols format that used to exist before Nextd.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That is so powerful to use when making multiple different screens of the same page.
Oh yeah. 100%. Especially if you're making, like, let's say, I think Alejandro, you were saying that you work on apps, and if you're creating, let's say, a menu navigation, and if you don't use components, oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's really important. Well, at least for myself, always for myself, it's feeling it's really important to slowly build out a design system as you're going along. Those master components and placing them somewhere. And then if you ever need a change, it's like, okay, it's easier rather than having to go through every single page, which just becomes incredibly tedious and time consuming. So having these master components is very beneficial and very powerful for reiteration.
100%. Totally agree. These are just like small hacks that I now wish like I had components in Illustrator and InDesign also.
Yeah, and it would be amazing to see those kind of things transform into programs as well. It's you don't appreciate them until they're gone, essentially.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's
really,
so
really
true.
nice.
In fact,
So-
even the component states are such a the tissue is coming from InDesign interactive documents where you can change the different states, and then you can have a rollover hover state. It's
yeah. There's a new thing for that here, Joe, which I think are instances that enable you to do that. And it's
right.
So
So we should explore that.
Yeah. Well, but very quickly, someone's asking about do you ever start with a mood board prior to designing?
That's a very good question. Yes, we absolutely do. In fact, this inspiration board is a little bit of our mood board. That's actually a great question, because so the mood board, we definitely should start with some sort of a mood board. And that is, let's say right after we get the brief from the client, we understand the goals and objectives. You want to start looking at not only a visual mood board, but also start to look at successful examples of where, let's say, the site architecture or the user experience in terms of the navigation, or the path to purchase is frictionless. So you want to look at different kinds of examples in your mood board. Of course, you want to have it look cool, and you want to have some great visual examples, but you also want to be cognizant of what are other things that are great about a certain design. Like, for example, now this is visually very, very simple, very clean. It's very nice, but at the same time, the reason I picked it was because the navigation, the links, all of those pieces are set in black and white. And why I like that idea is because even our logo, the redesign that we're doing for the BOM is also a very colorful brand. So that visual identity system is very colorful. It's got a lot of pop arty colors. So I wanted to find a way which kind of takes that thinking, but then simplifies the navigation for the end user. So that's why I have this example in our mood board. So it's not just a visual mood board, but it's also looking at other components and other elements that are going to be helpful in the decision making when we're actually doing the design of the website.
Right, and that's really important to remember, to ensure that what you're designing is functional. It's not just pretty, but works as well.
100%. Yeah. It's like, think about it like this, like a very simple example is that when you have engineers that are making a road between one city to the other, their first goal is going to be what's the most straight line they can cut between one city, one point to the other, so that people have the least amount of time to travel between one place to the other, right? Frictionless. And then they're going to be like, okay, why don't we put some trees and flowers and some great, vegetation around it so that even the road is beautiful and pretty. But they're not going to put a tree in the middle of the road, right?
Hopefully not.
So the function is number one, and then you think of ornamentation and beautification as well. You do want to think about that because the design has to be emotional, because people who are going to use the product or the site are also emotional beings. They're human beings. They're not machines. Unless you, of course, that only bots are going to be looking at your website, then you don't even need to add, then you just don't even need to consider any of this. But if people are using it, then it has to have an emotional element to it.
It makes sense, and it's so true. So then how are we going to be moving forward with this design and adding those kind of emotional aspects? I see you already did some of that already with the about for the founders.
Absolutely. So now in this, for example, this template that I've kind of created is like, if I actually go back to this now, of course, you can read about the founder here, but by giving the right amount of real estate and emphasis on the photography, on the storytelling, the impact that you're going to create on your end user is going to be different. Like, for example, if you make a big, bold red button versus if you make a tiny, small gray button. So they're going to have a very different impact on the person. They might not be able to vocalize it, but they're going to feel it. So likewise, the design that we make, there's certain parts that they're not going to notice consciously, but unconsciously, subconsciously, they're going to realize, oh, wow, okay. Because when a person comes to your site, they're not coming to just your site. They have looked at other websites. They've read the New York Times. They've gone to other websites. So they have learned different patterns from different places. And when they see certain photography styles, they see certain font treatments, they register that and club it in their mind with certain themes. So for example, this could be, classy editorial. So anytime they open like a HBR or something, they're like, well, yeah, that's kind of like that. They might not consciously know it, but unconsciously you're training them to treat that information in a similar way.
Interesting. There's a lot of that psychology aspect to this, and recognizing what connections a regular user would make based off of those existing conventions that they've already established due to other websites. It's really, really interesting. So that's what you're going for here. Is that right?
Yeah. So I am basically the example that we had also looked at yesterday was, let me pull this up right here, is that we had this website open, the brightest content. Now, this site is fantastic. It's great editorial content. If you're a creative person, I would advise you go check it out. And they're basically conversations with creative people. And if you look at these examples, so they're like, again, if you look at that style, it's full bleed image. They're really playing emphasis on this person, right? And so like, imagine like this, if you put this image in a small thumbnail, which is maybe 150 pixels by 150 pixels versus like this, the impact that you're making on the user is very different. Now, and then there's a lot of clean white space, big bold name. So your eyes very naturally and navigate throughout the page without getting distracted. So that's kind of that editorial vibe. Like you can look at this, or you can look at Harvard Business Review, some of those great editorial pieces, and how they bring in that flavor of who's the person behind this business. Like show them in some like a very candid moment. So there's all these pieces that I wanted to bring to this page here, basically. So I felt like that flavor, that human emotion and element was missing. And by kind of bringing it into this form, we're able to celebrate them in a much more meaningful way.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can get inspiration from so many different sources, going from editorial magazines to, just cereal boxes even. And I would actually love to ask the chat where they get their inspiration from, or where they go to try to get inspired as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to know from the audience as well where they go for inspiration. I primarily I open up like Behance. There's a lot of great portfolios there. And so to that question earlier, so Moodboard is important, but don't just look at the immediate competitors. Don't just look at the same category. Go cross category and look at different kinds of examples. So, if you're doing an e-commerce website like we are, we're not only looking at, beauty and cosmetic brands, but we're also looking at editorial. We're also looking at, yesterday we had a look at also another great brand that I follow really closely is Rafa, which they sell bicycles. Again, they also integrate product and storytelling very beautifully. So that's one thing that was one of our goals for doing the redesign, was to integrate those stories with the product. So that's not cosmetics. That's got nothing to do but it's e-commerce. There's still a shop, but at the same time, they're doing the storytelling in a really beautiful way. So yes, when you do a mood board, go wide, but also narrow later.
Right. So cast a wide net and narrow it down. And some people are using Instagram. And very quickly, hi, Kimberly. Thanks for joining us on chat.
Hi, Kimberly. Yeah, I work with Kimberly.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, she's super talented, very, very chirpy and fun.
Oh, I'm glad she's joining us here on the chat. So thank you for that answer. Hopefully that answered his question in that regard.
Yes. So what I'm going to do is, if you prefer, of course, if audience has more questions, let's address those, or I can sort of get started a little bit into some of the designs. I was thinking maybe we can just finish up this homepage a little bit, maybe do a few interactions. I think that would be pretty fun to see how some of this stuff comes to life.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
It already looks great. I'm really excited to see where this goes. I can only see we could get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this is just one perspective on how we could redesign the site. Now, if a different designer came in and, if there were different criterias, maybe we would not approach it like this. But based on the brief, the understanding that we have, we've approached it with those data points. So now, again, I've brought in a lot of that flavor of the logo into the visual design of the site. So now this is the homepage, and where my emphasis is that not only do I want to talk about the BOM as a shop, where you can also get a subscription box, and it also sells you can buy products from there, but also bring in that meet the founders kind of thing, that piece of meeting the actual people and faces. So this tile system that we have, this is also I've set up as a scroll, is when you click on a tile, it would open up one of these founder pages. That's basically the link between the two. So that's basically what's happening there. And then, so I have those founders integrated like in two spots on the page. And then again, this is where we're going to bring in that BOM box. I already have cropped out that image. So let me actually just bring that image into the layout here. I had just done like a very quick, again, just used a select subject tool in command in. Yeah. And there you go. It was that easy. I literally took that photograph and said, select subject, and it's done. So
Kimberly says she's your biggest fan, by the way.
Thanks, Kimberly. Okay. So maybe we do like a nice contrast color here in the back that really makes this thing pop. Maybe we do like, I think blue or the pink. I think the blue might look better. So again, just bringing in
what color that should be.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We should get people's perspective on what color this could be. Now, let me just turn on those grids. So now, of course, I could also bring in the Photoshop file directly into the layout. But what I'm actually doing is just bringing in a PNG for now, just for the sake of this layout. Now, so that could be as big as that image, or we could actually scale that down and make it a little bit more smaller. I think at least 10 column wide should look pretty cool. And yeah. So again, just wanted to bring those elements that are on the current page, but like really make them pop. So I'm going to just turn off the guides for a second. The guides. Okay. So now this actually starts to integrate a little bit more, because now you're looking at the BOM box, and then right away you're looking at some feature products where I've written like things like, again, I've just copied over the tiles that I made here onto this page. And I've just added like things like, I've just changed the copy, because here it's like products from Harlem Candle Company, whereas the copy, because you're on the homepage, it's feature products, staff favorites. Again, just showing, what those different tiles and sections could be. And here I've slightly altered the typography also and the hierarchy, where on this page here, you're already looking at the Harlem Candle Company founders page. So the person is in that context. Whereas on the homepage, we needed to give a little bit more context as to what product are you looking at. So I've just did a more darker, basically 100% black on the heading, and just a little bit of description. I just threw in like rough copy, like new fragrances just in time for summer. And then I've put a slightly grayed version of Shop the Collection underneath. Again, one could argue that this should be a little bit more, bold, or this could be a little bit more highlighted. But again, I've just taken some artistic basically, what do you call it? Liberties. That's the word. Artistic liberties have been taken. And then, so that kind of like has a nice segue from, you're kind of looking at, you're getting some facts here. There's going to be a headline here. So let's actually build some of this page out. So that's basically my box. And this box is currently being redesigned as well. So this box is going to look super cool. But this is the only image that I had at this point. So let's actually go down, and I actually wanted to create one thing here, which was like a featured Black-owned business owner like section here, right underneath this whole tile. And then this could, again, if you click on it, it would take you to that second page that we just created. And for the footer, actually, one thing I want to add to the footer before we go back to the homepage is what I was thinking is that we have so typically in a footer, you have like the sitemap and you have social links, which we can have, of course. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking maybe we can have a cutout of the founder, Michelle. So what I've done is, let's actually open up, and this will be great for the audience members to also see how easy it is to crop an image and just bring it into XD.
Yeah.
So if I open up Photoshop and I go, let's actually open up Michelle. So I have two images of Michelle. So I have this one, and then I have this one. I feel like this one might be a good fit for
I
this.
think that looks good.
Yeah, I think this one might be a good fit for, this one that feels like a little bit more classy and maybe not the best for the footer. This one looks a little bit more cheerful and fun.
This looks like something out of Vogue.
Yeah. So I'm just going to take this image. Now it is a little bit low resolution, but that's okay. I'm just going to do a select subject on it. And you can see that Photoshop's actually already gone ahead and done a very good selection. All I have to do is hit mask and it's cropped. I did like one button click and it's done. How long did that take?
That was like 10 seconds.
That literally took, exactly.
That used to take me an hour. Or like 30 minutes an hour. It's, especially with hair, it's so difficult with hair. That's the most frustrating part. But
look at that. That is pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah. And now in the layers panel, all I'm going to do is right click and just say export as a PNG. And we're done.
There it goes.
So just going to export that out into Michelle. And I'm just going to call this michelle.png. Of course, when you're making a larger project, you want to be organized with your files and layers and all that stuff. But on this show, we're gonna refrain from doing that, because otherwise that's just gonna occupy way too much time. I have
very quickly is we have the design feedback coming up in about 45 minutes. So don't forget to submit those design challenges over to the Discord challenge tab, so we can take a look at those.
Oh, sweet. So my thinking is that maybe we embed her into the layout here, into the footer. So she is part of the footer at all times. And my thought process is that every time you open a different page, the image at the bottom of her changes and the quote above her changes. So it's not a boring footer, because footers are treated like the end of a book, like a glossary section, right? Whereas my thinking is that for each page, maybe we have a different image of her and a quote on top. So let's, for example, if I say, this is a super cool quote said by the founder. And I'm just going to blow that up a little bit. Okay, let's maybe take like a nice 80 size.
That's huge.
So this could, I think that is a little too huge, actually, but a little too crazy there. But something on these lines where there's always a quote sitting at the bottom here. And of course, we can mask out this image as well. Just very quickly, if I was to just grab this and So I've actually set up the shortcuts on my Wacom tablet, so I can just do a very quick mask and unmask and ungroup.
You're using your Wacom tablet?
I am using a Wacom tablet with XD. And I'm able to.
I've never heard of that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually much faster to work with it. So yeah, so now you have like, of course, we need to develop the footer more. Like it needs more information. But that's kind of my thinking, is that, every instance of the footer could be a fun, reveal and a different story about that founder who was kind of behind this whole thing. So that's basically the thought process there. Now I could, again, just repeat that and just throw that on here. And then that could start to become our footer. And of course, I probably want to have some more other details there, but roughly that's kind of the thinking. Now, again, let's say, for example, we wanted to take that other image. So let's just go and say Command O. And there was this other image. Again, even this image is going to be super easy to crop. I'm just going to go select subject. And Photoshop's already done a really good job. I'm just going to do a mask. Now, there was a leaf there in the top part of her hair. So let's just go into select subject and just kind of clean that up. Very quickly. You could do that. Again, I just want to show, because there's some leaves in that picture. That's why you're seeing that. But all I would do is now just kind of go, okay. And let's just, for the sake of showing people, demonstration, export as PNG. And just bring that also into our layout, just so we can, Michelle, I'll call this number 2.
All this would normally be finessed down the line as well.
Of course, absolutely. Again, in the first round, you would want to basically share this with the business owners or the stakeholders who are the decision makers and say, okay, this is our thinking. And this would be enough to explain the thought process to them. Let me delete that. Let me place and just because I have all these buttons set up with my Wacom tablet, I'm able to quickly jump between all these different things. So let me just go Command backspace, mask that, boom. Can just drag that down. So now each instance of the footer could have a different image of her. And then we can have our standard boilerplate footer content, which is, your sitemap, your socials, and all that stuff. But just bring in a little bit of a fun element to the overall footer. That's kind of the thinking there. Okay, so let's actually finesse some of this content here. I'm going to actually change this to a white. Now, as I'm going through this, I don't know if I would love to actually get some of the audience tell us, what would be a good font pairing for this situation. So we're using a Dido for the these headings, and for the body copy, should we use a serif or a sans serif?
That's always a question, right? Do we pair a serif with a sans serif, or do we go all out on the serif or the sans serif?
Absolutely. So in the current design system that we have for the audience, we're using a primary, secondary, and a tertiary font. Now, I actually consider this Babis that we're using for certain headlines and certain places for like call outs and buttons and stuff. That's actually one font that we're using. The other one is a Dido, and then the body copy font that we're using currently is Source Serif Pro. But if people have ideas, we would love to explore those. And of course, we will also try some of the ideas that I already have. Okay, so I'm going to actually jump. This is actually how I work. I jump back between like so many different things, go back from that page. I was like, wait a second, I wanted to try that. Then I go there, then I come back. So I actually end up working organically across 3 pages.
I have it to me all the time too. Yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, because the other thing is that when you're designing a website, you're thinking of not only one instance of that thing or interaction, you're thinking how it's going to work across the board. So how would it scale down? How would it scale up? How would it work on the phone? So that's why I constantly jump between different artboards.
That's the thing though as well. You were saying is like the pages, they all interact with one another. And so modifying one particular thing in one page could very well have to modify something on a completely different page that you think about like 15 minutes after you design, like, oh wait, I gotta go all the way back. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. Right. So by the way, I'm just curious, because we are doing web design here, but what are some of the, because you kind of specialize more in the mobile app, and that's an area that I've not really done much work in. So what would you say would be for the audience, especially the subtle differences between, thinking about when we're doing the web versus an application?
Yeah, I've done quite a bit, mostly mobile web design, along with some app as well. And I think the biggest thing is being very cognizant of the real estate. In desktop, I think we are very liberal with how much real estate we have and throwing something on there. But when it comes to a mobile, real estate is very precious. It's a precious resource we have to seriously consider, especially when it comes to a mobile web page compared to an app where an app has a full screen. A mobile web page is reduced even further from the normal resolution, because it could go from 811 or 812 on an iPhone down to a 650 opening, because you have those little tabs at the top, you have the little tabs at the bottom. So as soon as a person comes into that site, what do you want them to see? And then how do you get them to want to scroll down, which then of course expands that. So there's all those little things we kind of forget because we're just so used to it. But
that is so cool.
Yeah, so those are like those little items. And as well, there's like you always got to make sure you have that 16 pixel width on the margins, because on a mobile web page, we use those for back and forth as well. So
that is so cool.
Just stuff you get from experience and just trying and like forgetting, and then like, oh, you got to go back and redesign that portion. And it's a lot of trial and error and stuff. By the way, people are recommending sans serif because they think, or at least they're saying is serif doesn't work quite as well for body for web pages, I suppose.
Cool. So I think we'll listen to our audience and try that out. I think that will be a fun exercise to do for sure. I'm just gonna set up this tile here. Maybe I think I might just even redact this information or have a little bit more space here. I feel this could be way bigger, just for this one case. So 180, 88, maybe I go with, what does 160 look like? I'm just super curious. Ooh, let's just go with 160.
That is prominent. One thing I would like to mention very quickly is that Google Materials is also a great resource if you're learning how to do mobile design, because they have a lot of things there. You can just learn. It goes from elevation changes and depth for shadows, font, even icons you could use when practicing. So check that out. And one last thing, Artie Chick wants to know what font is best for which sections. Or I guess what kind of type is probably best for different sections, like body headers and subtitles, and even like the small ones. That's
actually a really good question. I would actually like to know how would you approach that in a mobile scenario?
It's tricky.
I know, same. That's what I was thinking too. It's even for web, it's tricky because it's the context. The context is king. It's like, what are you making? What is the call to action? What are you trying to get the user to do? And then the answer would be somewhere there.
There's also the accessibility aspect too. If you make it too small, I mean, it might look great as a visual design and as you're doing it. Like 14 or even like 12 pixels, like, oh, it looks great on here because it doesn't overtake like the images you're trying to produce. But then if someone's a bit hard at seeing, like myself, it might be a little difficult for them to read, or like older folks to really see it or something like that. So there are other factors I think people should make sure they keep in mind for something they're not used to, but making sure those groups have access to still use the product.
Right. That's actually, yeah, I would say like I would just layer on top of that for the web as well. And I know, by the way, Alejandro, you're quite an expert in this space as well. But my perspective here is that the fonts that you're choosing, yes, they should be aesthetically pleasing for sure, but always, especially when you're designing something for people that they're going to keep using again and again, is to think about functionality and making everything sort of frictionless in their path. Mm-hmm. So just think of that example. You're making a road from point A to point B, and you want to add flowers and trees and, you know, a beautiful architecture, but you want to do that on the side of the road, not in the middle of the road. So you want to let people go from point A to point B, but admire what they see on the way there.
Brilliantly put. Yeah, absolutely. Because I've seen sites, and I'm not going to throw any site under the bus on that one in particular, but using like a beautiful serif font. It's gorgeous, and I really love it. But then they use it across the entire site. I'm like, I can't quite read what this says, and I think it's important. Functionality is always important, and make sure you can read it. So I personally like sans serif fonts for like bodies because it's easy to read for the most part, and you know, it's quick. People can gain the information as quickly as possible.
Totally agree. So here's what I'm kind of thinking now. So I have actually a few things going on, and typically what I do is in my first mock-up, and what I do is, you know, I kind of lay out everything just based on my initial gut reaction of how I see the information flowing. But the best part is that in a website, we're designing sections. So if that story from the top above the fold, the hero image, all the way down to the footer is not a very fluid, concise, like a movie. It has a beginning, middle, and end. So if it's not doing like a really clear, like what are you looking at when you open the rbomb.com for the first time? So if it's somebody who's a returning user or somebody who's coming for the first time, so you want to kind of think about some of those use cases and say, well, what are you conveying to them from that hero image all the way down to the footer? Because if you don't, you know, tease them and create that excitement up front, you're not even going to reach the middle or the end, which is the middle section of your website or the footer. And we've actually thrown in a fun little feature even in the footer.
That's like the epilogue if we're going to go with the movie analogy. And that top part is like the teaser trailer.
Oh yeah, exactly. So what I was thinking is that not only do I have now a few products here, I was also actually thinking that because I'm clubbing some information. So now here I have above the header, I'm probably going to have like an image of the pop-up or one of those images that kind of show, you know, what the original idea was. But as we start to go down now, I've created some tiles here. So I'm going to just take this one and go back. And then there are more tiles. Of course, these need to be designed a little bit. They need to be set up. But they're great facts that could be tiles that could run, again, in a parallax effect, or we can have them in a carousel style effect also. There are multiple ways that we could approach this. Of course, this could be also halved, and, you know, we could have maybe 2 layers. So for now, I'm just going to leave it at this. And what I was thinking here is maybe I feature a very specific product. That was my initial thinking. But like I explained, as I started laying out stuff, I realized, if I'm showing the box here, maybe, you know, it's like kind of like an arrow. So maybe this is where I actually reveal some products, feature products here, instead of doing a product here, and it might feel disjointed. So I might want to go with a more richer story here. So for example, I might go and say, like, you know, one of our latest events. So this could be like an event feed here. Mm-hmm. And we can have, again, a parallax or some sort of a navigation here that takes us to different states. So for example, let me actually throw in I have actually quite a bit of images which were provided to me by Michelle. So if I go into photos,
Well, that's subtle
and
too, as well as you were saying with the triangle. I did not pick up on that, but subconsciously I probably did, and it's like a leading shape. It's wonderful.
yeah. So maybe I'll just add like a image.
This looks like so much fun.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Like this flavor needs to come in the website. And I feel that's kind of what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I just take like a nice close-up shot, like an animated shot of somebody doing something, and we can use that as part of our carousel. Let's see here. There's some really nice, cute images also, and people just having a great time.
Yeah, look to me, looking at these pictures, it's almost infectious how much fun they're having. And
yeah,
so, I would love to. Yeah, I would love seeing that being prominent within the homepage. It does seem enticing and does make me want to, join in on these pop-ups.
Yeah. I think I was looking at this earlier, and maybe I can use, let's see here. There's products. There's a lot of, okay, maybe that one. I'm just going to pick one because again, the idea is not to get a perfect image.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to express the thinking and what kind of section we're going to create within that area. So maybe I'll take anything that's got laughter. Let's see.
What's really cool too is these all kind of add this humanizing aspect to it as well. It's not 100% perfect, which is what I think really makes the photos.
Totally agreed. And so I'm just going to crop that in. Maybe not the best choice for the image, but.
Or that lady on the left.
Yeah, she's getting yelled at. But I like the so maybe I just crop this out. So yeah, maybe not the best image for this piece here, but again, I would want to just make this into an event feed. So I'm going to just take some of this copy. Let's turn this black. And so now some of that layout is going to start to come to life. Just say latest events, right?
Hi, Najeesh. To the chat. I was just saying hi to someone who said hi to us.
Right. And let's maybe just add like a event feed here. So I'll just call this bomb. I'll call this pop up 2020.
Not to take away too much time from the design. So I would just ask this question very quickly as you continue the design, but do you do any user research? And this is a question asked by Raphael.
I think that's, again, a very subjective and contextual question. It depends. Mm-hmm. If somebody because I'm usually working in larger teams and somebody's actually gone out and done that work in advance. And so they come back and say, okay, well, we've kind of summarized and done our own analysis of this. And these are the data points. But as a designer, I say that, as a person that's part of a larger team, I'm like, okay, I'm going to work with what I get provided. But as a designer at my own level, I'd say that you got to be super curious and you got to do as much investigation as an investigative journalist. In fact, I say that every designer should be somewhat like an investigative journalist, constantly questioning and checking, well, why do people react like that? Why did they behave in that way? And why are they saying this? Like, for example, when somebody says it's expensive, a very simple example is when somebody says something is expensive, are they only noticing the price because the experience is broken? Because when things are expensive, some people don't notice the price. I feel like sometimes you only notice the price because something is broken. So is that the case, or is it actually broken? So, and then you kind of prive into it. You're like, oh, the experience was bad. That's why the person's saying it's expensive, because they can't figure out how to articulate their feelings and emotions towards it. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, it's as depending, of course, like you're saying, how large the team is. Sometimes the research is already done for you, but if not, even a smaller team, it's definitely beneficial, especially if you're doing the entire process from A to Z. Knowing all those prerequisites prior to going in really helps the design, and especially helps from having to reiterate certain portions of design too, which takes up time and resources and sometimes money to do that. So
100%.
More time sunk into research, normally the better the outcome for the final design. In terms of user research, yeah, I would say definitely to try and do that a bit before getting into the dirty work of getting on XD and designing out.
So just adding a little, I totally agree, Alejandro, that it's because ultimately when you're making a website or you're making something, you're making it for somebody to consume. And especially if it's a digital product, you want to ensure that you're making it for the people. So if you're making a paintbrush for an artist, you're going to think about, well, how does the person hold the paintbrush? You're not going to put a giant grip on it because you know that they're going to hold it like a pencil, for example. Or if they're going to hold it from the tip, where they're going to hold it from. So you're going to design keeping all those same ways. Likewise, in the digital space, you want to think about, well, what are people coming to the site for? Or they want to make a purchase? Do they want to get informed? Do they want to get like what emotion, what actions? So yeah, again, I just think about a designer being like a investigative journalist.
I mean, that's how you sometimes have to do it. And people, by the way, are really liking your design. They're saying that you really made it pop.
Fantastic. That's a great success. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that we stay true and honest to what the original idea of the identity was. Maybe I can have like a little arrow element here at the bottom. And for that, I use this tool called the Noun Project. I don't know if people use it, but maybe I can just throw in let's just throw in like a arrow here. Just gonna throw in a really small one. Okay.
It's really cool too is there are plugins that have icons as well in XD.
Yes. And in fact, I want to actually explore those. What's happened is that I've had a membership of this Noun project for a while. Yeah.
It's a great resource. I use it sometimes too.
Fantastic. Okay. So maybe some version of that where we have, well, wait, sorry. I wanted to actually turn on my grid. Layout grids are your best friend. And maybe let's compress this image a little bit. Actually, wait, why don't we go a little bit bigger on the image? Take these arrows. Whoops.
Cameron is asking if this is a case study for Adobe Live purposes only, or will we be able to see more of this elsewhere? Like on a portfolio, maybe, or maybe your Behance dashboard as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually thinking that, I should actually upload this to my Behance page, post this live stream. I'll probably take like a day or two because I have to go back to work tomorrow. But I will be taking everything that we've done in this 2 days and put it on my Behance page. And I haven't actually updated my Behance page in a while because I've just, all the work I do is under NDA and I can't publicly share any of that work.
Oh, there you go, Cameron. You could find it in a little later in the Behance page, in Paul's Behance page.
Okay, so I just wrote like some cheeky copy there and that is done. Okay. So now we're going to have like this simple tile system where, people can see between photographs here. Now, Actually, you know what? This image is really bugging me. So I'm just going to take it out because it's not doing justice to even the mock-up that we have. So let's just throw in a quick place. Let's just take a fun image from here. Okay. That. There's, maybe we can take this one. That looks cool.
That looks fun.
Yeah, it looks way better than what we had before. So I'm just gonna crop that into it. Let's command back. Oh, sorry. Command back. Sorry, shift command backspace. And let's just mask this in. Boom, much better. So in fact, what is my 75? Oh, so I gotta make this
72.
I've actually made it 80, but I could try 72, Alejandro. Let's try that. 72. Yeah, that looks good too. I think that totally works. Okay, so now we have right off the top, once you kind of get into the content, you see a little bit of, did you know, facts. And again, that is the kind of format she's doing on Instagram. And I would love to have like a little share icon here so that when you hit share, it literally as a tile can get shared to, you can share it to your Twitter or wherever you want. So that is something that we can also add here, but then
really cool interaction because like you made that shape at the very least, or it looks like the dimensions match that which would be on Instagram. So it makes it so much more easy and seamless. That's really smart.
Yeah. And then, so as we come down this page now, we're getting a flavor of, okay, the impact, the success of, and why they're into this whole Black-owned market and the impact and the industry. So you're getting like an instant flavor of that. This is like, how like in the newspaper, you have like a scroll. So you're looking at information, but you're also getting like helpful tidbits of information. And then the main emphasis is on the Black-owned business owners. Now, I was just experimenting with this layout. Again, I could take this and center this here. And maybe we could also do this again, where we have the business owners go all the way to the top and we can use the stacks. I am using stacks and scroll group for this. So let me actually just center this for a second. Okay. And then again, the whole thing is modular, so we can modify whatever we want and also turn this into white text here. In fact, I would actually have a button here which says, so there's a clear call to action also here. So maybe I'll just say, whoops. That's actually,
again, I'm digging that font.
Yeah.
Wait, what is that? What font is that?
So this is Babus at the top. And then the description currently, this one is, I have some fonts are all over the place. But I think the audience was thinking sans serif, right?
Yeah, they're thinking sans serif. Yeah.
Right. So for in my brain, I just think serif or sans. It's just one in my brain, like, because that's how I think. But so I'm gonna just say like subscribe, like create like a simple call to action here, subscribe. And for this button, we can actually let's just create a button here, right in the middle of all of this. Maybe it's like a circular. No, actually, you know what? I'm gonna make the interaction be circular, but let's just take a black order. Let's just make a black button here. Because again, we want to remember that all the interactions and buttons, I'm going to keep them in black and white. And the button size here, I'm going to do 24.
And you do that to keep consistency because you're kind of training them as they come in that black button is a CTA.
Yes, absolutely. Spot on. And then let's just take this blue, throw it in the back. Okay. This might be a little too big right now. So let me just actually crank that down just a little bit. And also increase that tracking, because every time you kind of shrink down the font size considerably, you want to increase that tracking so it helps retain the legibility of that text. Okay, so just
which is especially important when it's on a mobile platform as well.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so that is maybe it's a little small at this stage, but I'm just going to power through. Let's just center align all this. Cool. Okay. So now let's see here. So that's actually starting to come to life now. All these pages are starting to, speak to each other. That is looking pretty good. I'm feeling good. Okay. So we have the headline, the business owners also here. Then we have also some products. The events feed is also happening here. So it's a good mix of editorial, storytelling, and products coming together. Okay. And then we have like a featured business owner, because that's literally what the marketplace is all about. And when you want to think about the digital experience, you want to also think about, well, what is the real world experience of a pop-up like? When you enter a pop-up, you don't see everything in a linear fashion. You'll walk over to this one booth, then you'll go left, then you'll go eat something, then you'll do this, then you'll do a little bit of sing and dance. So there's going to be, that experience is organic and dynamic and not static. So even the way we present that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that you're bringing that kind of vibrance and that kind of feeling to the site.
Exactly.
It's very apparent.
Okay. By the way, how am I doing for time?
So we got another 12 minutes before we get into the design feedback. So don't forget, guys, send those over to the Discord channel in the current challenge tab.
Okay. So I think I'm not going to be able to finish the page itself, but what we can do is we can have some fun by doing some interactions here and just see how some of these things can. So I think, so people, the audiences can get a flavor of how I see some of these pieces going from static to animated. Because I think I'm going to trust our audience that they're going to look at this and be like, okay, they can fill in the gaps as designers. They can look at this design and say, okay, we get it. We see that Paul, this is what he's trying to do, and this is what potentially the other parts could look like. And I'm going to just try and have a little bit of fun with the interactions, the micro interactions that we have set up on the page. So maybe, for example, let's take some of these. Actually, hold on a second. I'm going to actually just grab all this, lower this, and let's start with let's just take any one of these. And okay. So this is my current state. Actually, this is going to be my final state. So what I'm actually going to do is have like some product description on this also. So let's take a black, type out, and I'll say like candle company. Whoops. Where's my type tool?
To answer your question, Norval, and what he asks is, do you normally use grids when you're working on layouts? The answer is yes. For myself and both Paul, it makes things quite a bit easier to keep consistency throughout the design through multiple pages, as well as when you're like resizing these things into multiple platforms. So it's always really helpful. XD makes it really easy for you to do that. You could turn them on and off. Personally, I use 8 points with, I think it's like 12 columns. So yeah, play around with those, and they make it great. Make it easy, I should say.
And then have a little bit of a description here. I'll call this flower scented. Just need to change that font. So I'm basically designing the end state first. And let's just go. Here, 0. And let's also actually turn this into white. Like the size needs to be 32, 40, 48. Okay. And this should be 24 then. Or maybe 32 might be better. There we go. And so, for example, the action I'm going to do here is maybe, let's just try buy now. Okay. And let's turn this to 20.
Do you envision the entire component being a selectable object to that buy now, or just the text?
That's actually a good question. I actually want to try so typically when I work on these animation and buttons, I like to try a lot of different things. Like there's this person named Joe Stewart from and he has this whole article on brute force design, which is you try like as much as you can until you get to this point where you're like, okay, now I feel certain about this. So I like to actually try a lot of different things before I get to a certain idea. And now the long-winded way to actually answer your question, I'm not exactly sure at this very point, but I do want to experiment. So what I'm going to do is actually, let's see here. So I have to also think about what is the animation going to look like. So for example, if this is the finished state, what I would want to do is actually side by side. Let's actually just try this for a second. Even before I turn it into a component and do any of those other things, let's just delete all this for a second. And maybe, the starting state, let's say, for example, is this. And then this state, maybe the color also changes to like a black, maybe. Yeah, let's try it. Let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna take, let's see here. Let's go and take that, turn it into a component, and I'm gonna add the state, hover state. Okay, so that's my hover state, and I'm gonna now go back to my default state, and I'm gonna take some of these pieces, whoops, and let's just change their shape. Let's take the text here, and I'm gonna turn down the opacity. And also of this, I'm going to turn the opacity down. Okay. And maybe, you know what we can actually do? I'm going to go back to the hover state. And actually,
So is the first one the hover state or the second one?
Actually, the second one. Okay. So, okay. I think it didn't pick up. Oh, shoot. Did I? Okay, let's try this for a second. If I was to, hold on a second. Let's just move that aside. So let's take this, for example. Oh, no. Actually, hold on. Let me just go to prototype mode for a second. And let's just see actually if it works, because it already has the thing set up, because that should work by default. Hold on a second. That is my home page. Okay. What? This is my home page set here. Okay. One second. I think if I go here, and yeah, that works. Okay, how come it's not working with this page here?
This is like a real design.
You know why? I just realized I had taken that above the fold, like that line, and okay. I was trying something else, and so this line, which basically helps you set where the above the fold line is. So I'd set that right at the top of the screen. I was like, why is it not working? There we go. Okay, so I think let's try this for a second. Let's see how it does now. Okay. I'm like, why is it not working? Okay, that is, I have to actually set the states also. Hold on a second. So let's go, we're in prototype. We gotta, so the default state, hover state. Oh, it actually doesn't even have the different. Okay, let me go back to design for a second. Okay, let me start over because I messed that up completely. But let's just start with something very simple. So let's say we take this, make it into a component, add a hover state, and I'm going to call this rollover. Okay. And in the rollover state, actually, hold on a second. I would actually want that the end state, it becomes a square. So maybe let me actually try this again.
This is the entire design process is trial and error and going through these.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's like, oh, that's what I had to do. Like this, I forgot that I moved this line all the way up because I was trying some experiments before. I was like, oh, that's. I just wanted to see what that did because I was trying to do like anchor links and offset objects. Okay. So that's why I was just kind of moving around stuff to see how it worked in different instances. Okay, so let's just take this and I'm going to just fill this with the pink color here. That's okay, and I'm going to ungroup all of this here. Okay, there we go. And just bring that to the front. And then I'm going to just slightly shrink this. Because what I'm thinking is that when I go into the rollover state, maybe like it grows.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's start with that text again. Oh, right. So let me just actually do a very quick text here. Just to say test. And I'm gonna grow that. Okay.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for joining us in the chat. We got 2 more minutes before we go into the design feedback for the Creative Challenge.
Right. Okay. So I think we should be able to get at least this button in a good spot. So I'm going to just actually group all of this, make it into a component. Okay. And that's my default state. And now let's add a hover state and select this. And if I select that default state, hover state. So if I go to my hover state and I make these changes, and I get rid of this text here, just turn that opacity down 0. Okay. Let's see if this works now. Let's go to prototype, homepage. That should, that should by default work because hover states are, oh, I think I still have to build the interactivity into the prototype part. Okay, so let me just go here and then add the interaction that on a hover, it auto animates and choose a state is default state. And then, then on the default state, hover state. Okay. So let's try this now. There we go. So it could be like a very simple animation, something like this, where like the product appears, let's say in this state. Now this is, I've actually set this as my hover state, but this would be my default state. And then as the user goes onto a certain product, if it's a triangle, whatever, and then it would just go boom, you would get more information revealed to you. So that could be, a fun interaction. Again, just to bring some of those elements that are on the page, give them a little bit more fun character, make them playful. Again, going with that pop-up vibe, energetic, fun. So I would actually just take this thinking then, and then just kind of apply it and sprinkle it, not go crazy. I would apply it in a meaningful way wherever required. Like, for example, if I wanted to do like a really cool, let's just see, maybe like in the next 2 minutes, I can do
Well,
this.
we could always come back to this because it's actually time
Sure.
for design feedback for
Go
the
for
creative
it.
challenges. So why don't we go into that and see what you guys got, see what you have. It's always
Yeah.
exciting to see the work you can.
Okay. Files there. Yeah. Let's check that stuff out.
Great. So let us see. So I believe the creative challenge once again was, to go over real quick, design and prototype it was a way to explore maps with scroll groups that incorporate audio feedback with interactive landmarks. So let's see what you guys got. So this is by MJK.
That looks really cool, actually.
Yeah. So let's see. Maybe I should turn the audio up a little bit. Just in case, I don't want to destroy people's ears in case it's really loud. So let's do this and take a look. Okay. So people might not be able to hear it, but let's just take a look. It's pretty cool. This makes me miss camping. That's for sure. All right. So any feedback for this, Paul?
So can you just scroll up and down? Like let's just have a look at the full visual from top to bottom.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's see.
I think there should be like an Adobe XD, that prototype link, that the shareable link somewhere button to see if those.
Doesn't he or she has submitted it? So.
Okay. Oh, right.
So it seems like this is it. This is the only thing that we received, and it's just a video. So either way, it still looks good.
Yeah.
Like the clean design. I like the blue really pops up against that gray, which is great because it's a very prominent CTA, call to action. You know exactly. I love the left side has those items that you can quickly review and see those beautiful photos. They really take prominence. And I can really see the scaling well as well.
Yeah. So she's used the repeat grid and stacks, and
possibly, if they're here on zoom out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for submitting. Let's take a look at Mo3. Let's see. Campy. Let's take a look at this very quickly. All right, let's see. They asked me if I could zoom out. We're gonna try.
Yeah.
Campy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It hides. And it looks like they might even be using Google API.
Right.
Let's take a look.
So I think
yeah. Ooh. That's cool.
Is my screen frozen?
Right.
Oh, this Campy looks really cool. I like how they use the A in Campy.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of reminds you.
Okay. So why don't we continue scrolling down? I love how they have the design system set up here, or at least like the branding with the colors. Like you're saying, the logo looks fantastic. I love it. And how it's juxtaposed against a very fun camping photo and how they might be able to use it. I think it's really, really cool. They have the video embedded. Very neat.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah.
I think it looks really good. Do you have any feedback you might want to give? Any helpful tips?
I like the fact that again, like all the links and everything is in a single color. So the user knows what's a button, what's not a button. There's like there's a very clear visual architecture on the page. And also like the A that kind of, it also symbolizes like pointing north, but also like the tent. So it looks fun actually.
Yeah, that was really clever. The one thing I would have to say though is I'm curious to know if the featured is a button in itself or just kind of like a tag, because he or she is using the green as a tag on top here.
Right. Right.
It's a small differentiating, those things that help differentiate the hierarchy, like you were saying.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so why don't we go and move on? Let's see, we have plenty of others.
Yeah.
So this one is a galactic space scroll app. It might be for a previous daily creative challenge, but you know what? Why don't we quickly take a look at it, see how it looks.
Improving camping experience.
Design a space exploration mobile app for kids and parents. Allow users to pan around galaxies and hover over planets using scroll groups. I'm into it. I dig it. I love space.
I think so. I have a feeling that she might have used anchor links for the different planets on the left.
Here.
I wonder if she has like a prototype link here somewhere on the page.
Let's take a look. There is a video. So let's take a look at that.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh.
Okay,
so
scrollable.
Yeah, that looks cool. All right. And then scrolling. Okay. Vertical scroll. Nice.
Hey, that's really neat.
That is so cool.
That goes back
100%.
to you were saying earlier, is like that interaction, that feedback. It's a great mock-up. I love seeing those like detailed information, and the illustrations themselves are very, very fun.
Yeah. This is a cool project. This is absolutely, and like even as like a kid can totally play with this and not get confused.
No, it's really simple. She's really aiming for, she knows her audience essentially very well. She knows that too many things is too distracting. It's simple, easy to use, and it's creative. I find it so much fun.
Yeah.
So it's a great job. Thank you for submitting. I know it's be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Right.
Let's go wear earphones for better experience. MJK008. So let's take a look. So unfortunately, audio doesn't stream through here, but you guys can always take a look yourself on the Discord channel. So it seems like you can select, let's do that one more time. You can go ahead.
I think there's a video link at the bottom of this case study.
Where I'm not seeing it.
So if you scroll down to the bottom,
I am. So, all right. So unfortunately, we couldn't find that, but we could keep on moving forward. Let's go ahead and check out this one. All right. So
Ooh.
this looks beautiful. I love the look. Its colors are great. Great use of the white and kind of like that muted green. I love how they put the about, like what this challenge is, at the very top, so it's easy to read. You know, date made, XE challenge.
Ooh, and they've tried to make it's like an app basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, and the use of the icons look really nice.
Icons look great. I know icons can be very difficult to make and convey what you're trying to like really show and function. You laugh because it's true.
Yeah. In fact, anything that looks really clean and simple, like a lot of thought and iteration went into it.
Mm.
And we often look at a design and we just have like a knee-jerk reaction to it. But yeah, go ahead, Alejandro. I think you were gonna add something.
No, I 100% agree. It's the less you think about how out of place something is, oftentimes the more work has been put into it to ensure that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So take a look at this. So take a look at this. I really do like the way they kind of spaced, or at least how they set up the hierarchy for all these things. You know, you clearly see that this photo is prominent with a slightly grayed out area behind this one. So I'm assuming you're able to select this and continue. Yeah, just like you see here, view more.
Right.
Someone in the comments, someone in the chat did mention the white space. I also would agree with that. And they're saying that it could use a little bit more white space, a little bit more breathing room for those icons, only because it does seem a little cramped right around here.
Right.
And the person does have some space that they could use here to lead a person down. Continue. Oh yeah, someone's asking what the font size is too.
And it's funny how, Alejandro, like earlier in the show, you were saying that you're restricted by space on a mobile application scenario environment. And maybe you're right.
Balance.
Like, it's like, how much information do you want to show to a user at one instance? And then spacing out your content based on that. Because you can scroll, right? You can always scroll further down.
You can, yeah, you definitely can scroll, and you do have liberties to do that. It's, you know, like I was saying, it's really finding that balance of making use of that real estate, because you don't have a ton on that very first page. But at the same time, you don't want to condense it so much that it becomes so busy, it's difficult for you to really separate things out.
Right.
It's definitely a tightrope act to do.
Right.
And yeah, someone else is bringing up sometimes on mobile, things have to get sacrificed because they're not as important as someone else. And no better way to put it, essentially. Yeah, sometimes you have to take things away from, say, like on a desktop when you get transferred down to like a mobile application. So there's definitely some truth to that. Really cool dates. I see. So you could try to reserve or apply to ground.
Sorry, I was just reading the comments on this other screen over here.
Oh yeah.
I might look like I'm looking this way, but I was just trying to read the comments. That's all.
I think the chat's used to us looking at various different screens.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this because it looks like this might be a video.
Yeah.
Let's see this.
Yeah. Let's check it out.
Check it out.
Ooh. So he's using the scroll there. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. Okay, that clearly looks like a lot of work went into it.
Yeah. Those small little interactions take time. For sure.
Yeah. Oh, so as he clicked on those dates, the little information at the bottom also appeared. The time cost. Total cost, sorry. Wow.
That's really neat. I love that. And it makes it easy to use. It's clear. I would say one last thing about this is how big that button is on a mobile device. It looks fairly small. And it's, normally recommended sizing is like 48 pixels to make it large enough to just tap on it. And also placement of this. Where does it go? Do we aim more for the left, aim more for the right? How easy it is for you to get your thumb across that kind of screen, because screens are getting bigger and bigger. At some point, I'm probably going to have a iPad tablet in my phone as I go around. But these are real concerns, and these are real things you have to really try to consider as we're making and developing these apps. How do we reach those buttons, and how easy is it, and how challenging for if someone's on the bus, they don't want to fall over and they're holding on to something. How easy is it for them to kind of move around their thumb or finger to do that? So yeah, CTAs could definitely be wider. It could be a little bit larger on here. Cool. Thank you again for submitting your design. It's always really, really cool to see. See, we got anything else? Minecraft Hogwarts. I'm not sure if that has. I guess we'll take a quick look and see. Are you a Harry Potter fan?
No. I think I probably saw one Harry Potter once by accident, and that's pretty much it. So I'm not familiar with the universe at all, actually.
No worries. Actually, this is probably even better because then you get to take a look and see what do you notice. But I guess we're going to take a quick look at this. I'm not 100% sure.
Welcome to your new Hogwarts experience.
Okay.
So it's like Minecraft and Hogwarts mixed, combined. That is a Minecraft, right, symbol? I think. The one on the left?
A Minecraft little cube.
Isometric, yeah.
Yes, I guess like the first thing that pops, like the first thing I have questions is, what is this about? What are you trying to solve? What's kind of the purpose? So I would definitely recommend taking a look at that, adding that to this particular thing.
Right. Okay. So I think this person's using anchor links because as they're clicking on different sections, it's scrolling based on that.
Yeah. So, quickly, it's not bad. I like the anchor links. You could go to certain sections. You have clearly CTAs here to find your way there. But there are certain things like there are a lot of clashing elements with these different buttons, colors. There's the sign in, courage, creative, loyal. So definitely try to be more prominent with what you want us to select and what are the secondary and tertiary kind of actions you want us to move forward with.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I would say this is similar to what we did on the show for the last 2 days, is to take a look at your navigation and all the links be in a consistent format, either visually or with colors, whatever elements you can use to make all the links for the user to know that this is a link versus this is just information.
Absolutely right. Yeah, definitely tying those up, have consistency throughout this that entire experience, because it is also a learning experience for a user coming in, and they start taking those experiences forward as they continue exploring the site.
Right. It's like, I
so-
heard a funny saying. It was like, we have to design also knowing that people have gathered a lot of bad habits from across the internet.
That's true. So like,
So they have learned.
Go ahead.
So they've just picked up certain patterns and habits that you have to just think about when you're making a certain, experiential or interactive decisions.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is all we have currently on the challenge that were submitted. So we have about a few minutes left. Paul, do you think you could go ahead and, kind of wrap up what we did over the last 2 days for people?
Yeah, I am happy to do that. Let's get right into it. I will just share my screen here. One moment.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay. Fantastic. So actually, I managed to get a lot done in 4 hours. I will actually just start with where we started. So this is the website, Black Owned Market, The Bomb. I love the name, The Bomb. It's just like lingo, slang, like you can, And so this is a marketplace for Black owned businesses. And we wanted to look at an evolutionary exploration of this website because this was designed, bootstrapped by the founder, Michelle, who started this as a pop-up experience, and she used Shopify to, again, recreate that experience online. And then we looked at some of the navigational elements that we noticed that, for example, the word founder stories in the navigation at the top menu and about the founder were a little bit conflicting. So we thought, okay, how can we simplify some of those navigational elements as well? And then we also looked at how can we take some of these founder stories, which are Black-owned business owners, and celebrate them and give a little bit of a backstory, show more candid photography potentially also as well. And then one of the key underlying frameworks was not only have a clear, concise navigation and site architecture, but also integrate editorial and e-commerce. Mm-hmm. So over the last 2 days, of course, we couldn't touch on everything, but we looked at some great examples as well. But roughly what we did was we had a little bit of a brief I had spoken prior to the show with the founder to get an understanding of her business goals and objectives. And we looked at some of the landscape, which is, a mood board. And we not only looked at a visual mood board, but we also looked at function. We also looked at interaction examples. Mm-hmm. We also looked at other user experience. Like, for example, how does e-commerce look like in different categories like bicycles, somebody selling bicycles. Or we also looked at editorial examples like HBR and the Greatest Content, which are great sites. And then we also started to I think we've touched on the design system where we were, asked the audience, and the audience unanimously agreed that we should use a sans for our body copy, which was great. And then, so we kind of brought in that pop art flavor from an actual physical live event into the website. So we took some of the great ideas that already exist on the website and the visual identity, which is really colorful and bright, and started to say, how can we take some of these tissues and some of these this visual vocabulary, and how can we take that into a digital experience and be true and honest to that, but also be true and honest to the business owners who we're celebrating and showcasing on our platform or in our marketplace. So we also looked at an interesting way for us to put our own signature and stamp on the different products that we showcase in our marketplace. So we still have the products in their glory, but also we put our signature and, let's say, our own little window through which people can experience those products. And they were just like simple, again, geometric shapes that already existed in the logo. And then we attempted just 2 pages because in 4 hours, that's pretty decent.
That's pretty good.
It's a lot.
There.
So we kind of took an exploration of how could we do a modular layout. Of course, we couldn't get to the mobile version, but how could we bring in a mixture of editorial content, some of the impact that the BOM is creating, and mixing it with some events, some exciting stuff that is happening around this brand and business. And then like really bringing that subscription box, which they want to highlight, and giving it like this very clear, subtle, actually And yeah, and then in addition to that, we created a very cool editorial style layout for the business owners. And I'll hand it over to you, Alejandro.
Yeah, well, I want to say thank you again for joining us, Paul. I want to thank the chat for joining us. We had a wonderful time. That concludes our episode 2. But if you didn't catch the first episode, we're always on YouTube. Stick around. We got the Daily Creative Challenge coming up. So thank everyone again for joining us, and hopefully see you soon.